I'm growing marijuana in my yard. Growing marijuana in my yard. Got little pots of pipe spread out all over the lot, 'cause I'm growing marijuana in my yard. Well, I got the seed from Mexico. Stuck it in some dirt and let it grow. Put it in my garden with my peppers and my peas, and I get all the smoke I need to breathe. 'Cause I'm growing marijuana in my yard. Growing marijuana in my yard. We'll keep it where no one can see, so let's keep this between you and me. But I'm growing marijuana in my yard. 'Cause I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I can't tell my boss or I'll get fired. I don't grow much, just what I use. I work all day, and when I'm through, I smoke some marijuana from my yard. Yeah. Now the policeman, he wants to talk to me. He says, how you gonna smoke up all that weed? He says, money's what you're in it for. Don't you know we're in a war? Now I'm gonna haul your ass downtown with me. I said, hey man, what is it to you? How do I infringe on what you do? Well, I beg your pardon if you're offended by my garden, but I just can't grow Prozac in my yard. So I grow my own medicine in my yard. I give some to my neighbor for his heart. Share it with my grandma and keeps it from her son, 'cause we all know that stuff's against the law. Well, now there's nothing growing in my yard. Those cops to call my lane and bolt my car. Now I have to buy my pot from a teenager in the parking lot who's growing marijuana in his yard. Oh, anyone can grow it in their yard. Say I can show you how, it ain't hard. Never mind the president, let's overgrow the government, and I'll grow marijuana in our yard. Let's grow some marijuana.
Okay, here we are again doing another episode of Pot Talk, and as usual, I want to bring up the fact that too many of our brothers and sisters are sitting in jail for marijuana, and it's time for all you people out there to start putting some pressure on these politicians. We want all the nonviolent marijuana prisoners out of jail, and we don't want any more going in. And now that that's been said, and I've said it many, many times on our show, and we wish you people would get off your butts and start doing something to free these people. There's a lot of people suffering in prisons and in jails who've harmed no one. There's no victim in the marijuana, in the use or even the sales of marijuana. There are no victims. So if there's no victim, there's no crime. Why are our jails full of all these marijuana people? And the drug war in general is a racist drug war, and it was started and used racially, but the whole reason it was really started was to stop the marijuana industry. Farmers were growing it, and it was going to be a boom crop where many farmers would make a lot of money, and the big corporations like DuPont and the drug corporations and the wood paper companies saw that it was a threat to their monopolies, and they saw that instead of all the money going to just a few big corporations, it would be spread out to farmers all across this country, and they couldn't have that, so they used marijuana, the word marijuana instead of hemp, which everybody, had they started it out as hemp, people would have saw the scam. but they used the word marijuana, so most people didn't know what they were talking about, and they thought it was something else until it was too late. So you people out there better wake up. It's a useful medicine. It was a medicine before they started this, and they knew it, and yet the DEA put it in Schedule 1, which said has no medical value. And they knew that it was in 50% of the pharmaceutical medicines at the time. So everything that the government has told you about marijuana is a lie. Basically, almost everything that the government tells you about anything is a lie. If you believe that marijuana is really harmful, then you really believe that some airplanes crashed into the World Trade Center and the heat from that melted that steel and made that building collapse. Well, you people will believe anything that they tell you, and that's the big problem with America right now.
Cause cops call my lane and both my cars. Now I have to buy my pot from a teenager in the parking lot who's growing marijuana in his yard. Oh, he's growing in their yard. They actually have it hard. Never mind the president, let's overgrow the government and all grow marijuana in our yard. Let's grow some
They make all kind of promises,
Right.
but you know the way it is with promises from politicians
Right.
and from some of the bureaucrats and so on, you know.
I hope you spend some time listening to Marie Tucker's material because
I want to do that.
yeah, there's one thing to take note of when she talks about Cuomo, who's the governor here. She said that she went to the Moreland Commission that was supposed to bring together all these people who've suffered such egregious abuses, losing entire buildings and so on. So even landlords are attacked. Anybody with assets are being attacked now.
Paula,
But she.
Paula, my friend Marian Hannon, she passed away 4.5 years ago. She came from Long Island, and I have a picture. Marian, she was involved in demonstrations, you know, and one of the main concern was where the court system removed children from the caring parent and gave them to the abuser,
Right.
you know. And she presented Governor Cuomo with she stated the case to him, and I got the pictures, you know. And she used to make collages about the demonstrations.
Right, right. Well, Marie caught Cuomo off guard. I don't know, she caught him in the hall or something, and she said that for a moment she saw his heart. Marie Tucker is a very advanced spiritual being. I mean, she sat with me once and said from day one she never believed that Eve was created from a rib of Adam. Everybody knows that it's from the womb. She goes, what kind of nonsense is this? And I realized, you know, looking at it so simply, the deep spiritual truths can come out. And she said she saw his heart, and that she saw for a moment that he wanted to do the right thing. And so I believe people like us, instead of looking on these guys for all of their weaknesses, can we not see ourselves as a force to bring out the soul? Because who wants to waste this valuable life doing nonsense and hurting people and harming people, when instead you could be instrumental to create real beauty and prosperity? Who in their right mind could possibly be proud of a factory farm where you see a pond of red pig feces that spreads far and wide and carries stench so that all of the people living around, you know, can't even smell the air, let alone working in the place? It must be a nightmare where the pigs can't turn over for months at a time. Who could possibly be proud of that? You know, so again, like I say, I'll try to find the exact links because Marie really impressed me and moved me. And I felt as we were talking with her, even though she'd been through so much abuse, sitting here with this wonderful microphone and this beautiful, beautiful radio station, I felt Marie is going to get her land back. And if Marie gets her land back, she is going to set into motion a vision and a dream that she had to care for the children and to care for the homeless, get them on their feet. And, that's my 2 cents. And you sat with these very high people, the ambassador now to the United States of Canada?
Well, he, later on, when he resigned his position as premier, for a while he was the Canadian ambassador to the United States.
Right.
You know.
I don't know.
And, as I say, a lot of over the last nearly 40 years, I had meetings with a lot of the politicians and bureaucrats, and there's a whole long track record, correspondence and everything, and as I say, if I would be more versed on the internet, there's a lot of stuff that could be brought out in the open, but then at the same time, people have to be willing to pay attention.
Exactly.
And when you try so many times and you don't see any response and to no avail, then after a while you grow tired. But I appreciate very much that you gave me the chance, to come on your show,
Thank
but
you.
This is not anymore about me. I'm 72 years old. How much more can I expect from life? But I feel a responsibility,
Right.
Toward
Right.
the community, toward my fellow men,
Well, I definitely feel blessed by your wisdom. I guess do you want to just say just a few words about Linda Moulton Howe, what year you reached out to her?
Oh, it was at least 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
I gave her the information and I referred her to do the research and everything. And then the last time I spoke to her about 2 or 3 years ago, and I referred her to Farmer's Ordeal, the documentary, and where I explained a lot of the things, and that some in her line of work where she would blame the mutilation on UFOs and aliens, but I had definite some evidence that points toward some rogue elements in the military.
Right.
Are involved in it too.
Okay, well, let me try to get this over to Linda Moulton Howe, okay? Because my ex-boyfriend's pretty active in the UFO community, and I definitely believe there have to be more advanced civilizations than ours.
But listen, I don't deny that,
Yes.
But all the evidence around here, this UFO stuff, it was being used by a criminal clique to
Right.
cover up their crimes.
Yeah, Randy's agreeing, and Randy doesn't buy nonsense, right, Randy?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here at the same time, I'm sticking my neck out. I've seen a UFO, when was it, about 2 years ago. During the summer, I was in Moncton. And I stopped at Staples Business Depot. It was a sunny afternoon, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I saw one of those big chemtrail planes at maybe about 10,000, 15,000 feet, flying overhead, but not in the normal direction of the jet traffic, And then I thought what I perceived to be at first, it was a bird that was flying pretty high, whitish and orange colored. And right beside in the parking lot, there was a flock of seagulls sitting there and had about the same color. But then I saw this, whatever it was, flying, making circles and abrupt directional changes around this big jet plane. And, basically reasoning set in, and I thought, a bird can fly 350, 400 miles an hour, And then I took a closer look at it, and it was an oval-shaped, it was a round-shaped object, and maybe about 15 feet in diameter, and about 6 to 8 feet high at the edges. I could see that when I compared the size of the jet plane and when this object was flying next to the jet plane, and I just turned around to go to the vehicle and get the camera, and when I looked back, the object had proceeded toward a fluffy cloud, gray cloud, and when I turned around, it had disappeared in it. But I think the next day I contacted Stanton Friedman. He lives here in Fredericton, and he said to me, he said that there were lots of those sightings over the last few days in the Moncton area.
Well, Werner, I'm delighted to know that you have friends in high places.
As I say, this is what I realized right from the start when my trouble started up, that they wanted to isolate me.
Right.
But I always broke out again, out of that isolation, and looked for contact with people.
Right. Oh, thank you, Werner. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any last words, Randy?
No, just thank you.
Thank you. So I'll be in touch with you, and I hope that this becomes a seed and that you're not alone here in Woodstock, New York, okay?
Well, and thank you, Paula, and thank Joe and Randy, for giving the chance to put the word out.
Wonderful.
I wish that more people would take the courage and start speaking out.
I think they will.
There might be over 1 million people here in North America that are being targeted by those criminals.
Right.
With technology that's been, by those that want to debunk it, that when they talk always about utopian technology and, there is so much technology around now. Our first point of looking for the origin shouldn't be looking for aliens. Let's look for explanations here at ground level.
Right. I agree. Thank you, Werner, and when we hope to work with you again more on Randy's wonderful Woodstock 104.
Thank you, Paula.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You going to do the ID now? Because we're up at the...
Oh, okay. WIOFLP, Woodstock 104.
So what do you think, Randy?
I don't know what to think anymore. I mean, I'm just trying to absorb it all. Maybe that's a new drug. Absorbitol. You can actually absorb all the abuses that everybody puts out to you. All of the racist, bigoted, sexist crap that everybody just pop an Absorbitol.
No, but I mean that your vision. Ever since I met you, you talked about this vision to have your radio station, and here it's happening, and you had the community of Woodstock in mind, and yet I felt such intimacy with the farmer in New Brunswick that he couldn't have had on the internet.
Well, that's what it's all about. I mean, I like to use the word service provider. There's nothing in between. There is nobody impeding in any way. No copyright holder, no terms of service agreement that limits what you can and cannot do. That doesn't exist here.
Right.
And that's what we were striving for. It's just pure communication in order to inform and, to a certain extent, to keep people company and to entertain them at the same time. And there's so little now. Everybody's got their angle. They're always trying to sell you something. And I was always somebody that was repelled by somebody trying to sell me something.
Right.
So to a certain extent around here, this is about as altruistic as you're ever going to find.
Yeah.
And who knows what the future holds for us. Right now, we're in a little niche where to be specific about it, we have a construction permit. The station is not fully built. The station is not fully licensed, but we're licensed to do what we're doing. We're testing. And we're testing not only our ability to reach people, but to find out who the audience is. And the more that we go in this, the more we find that there is an audience that exactly what we were originally aiming for. And that's an audience that doesn't want to do a lot of research that themselves, that may or may not end up in something earth-shaking, but probably more is going to end up with bogus results. And they just want to be able, the old-fashioned way, to listen to something and to learn something. And that's what our mission is. So
I'm gonna get you that 1992 lady who was speaking about education, because it's just so fascinating how she talks about how the testing puts people on different tracks. And if the pattern was set in 1992, all the new technology with the iPhones and everything, it's just facilitating that plan, which should be challenged. It should be challenged.
And it is being challenged by even some teachers are saying that while they may support the Common Core curriculum as a guideline for what should be taught and maybe what shouldn't be taught, they have a problem with the testing, because like the entire health insurance industry, which Obamacare is really about, what I mentioned last week, with no child's behind left untested, is all to be able to, one, establish the pattern of testing, and so that these tests can be justified. It's like we've gone back to what we used to accuse in the 50s and 60s the old Soviet Union of being, where children were taken and tested, and it was determined for them what job they would have based on what attributes they tended to have to do the jobs, but also based on what the government wanted, what the government wanted them to do, where the government needed workers. And this is exactly the same thing. Even though Ronald Reagan claims to have defeated an entity that would have fallen apart of its own volition at the same time that he was trying to tell Gorbachev, tear down this wall. But it just, it's like, I always like to cite these books. And the other great book by Orwell was Animal Farm. Right. And pretty much the story of Animal Farm was how the farm, interestingly enough in this context, the farm was run by a lot of tyrants, a lot of tyrant human beings. And the human beings were overthrown and slaughtered by all of the animals. And then as soon as the power of running the farm rested in the animals, they started having factionalism. Sound familiar?
Right.
Started having factionalism, and ultimately the moral of the story is that the pigs, in this case, ended up taking over everybody and ultimately ended up just living like the farmers that they overthrew.
Right.
And I thought that it was very appropriate that it was, nomenclature was pigs.
Guess what Joe and I were watching on the internet last night? It was an hour and a half, and I didn't intend to spend the whole time watching it. The McCarthy
hearings?
stuff, the McCarthy hearings, where you could actually see the expressions and so on. And then with Roy Cohen, who was the prosecutor against the Rosenbergs, Joe and I had the great good fortune to see Ethel Sings, which was a beautiful play last summer, put on by Joan Bieber. She was the playwright, and she had a lot of social networks to promote it, but it seemed as though it was all about not letting that story get out, because it was so moving. And she said that she has another play about Roy Cohen. At this time I didn't even know who he was. But my God, to look at that, I was, Joe's back was hurting, so I was sort of massaging his neck, and I thought, well, I'll stick around a little bit. But pretty soon, I wasn't multitasking. I was looking directly at the expression on Joe McCarthy and then on Welch, and it was powerful. It was moving it, and it shows you just how the fear grows like a cancer. You see the expression on people's faces. People who they called him the junior senator from Wisconsin, and it seems like it was another media job. We talk about 9/11 being a media job.
Mass media job.
Yeah,
it really was, because it was an attempt by J. Edgar Hoover, working with Joe McCarthy and the House Un-American Activities Committee, to intimidate what they saw as the growing social movement. They wanted to call it commies.
Yeah.
And they were using the straw dog of the Great Red Menace in order to blacklist people like Pete Seeger and so many other people who were a part of nothing other than doing things that Americans are supposed to do.
Yeah, and I think he was so over the top, people didn't take it seriously, and because they didn't take it seriously, it kept growing.
Well, who else was there right along with Roy Cohn, who was the right-hand man of the McCarthy hearings, was Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon was right there. If you look at those pictures, a lot of the House Un-American Activities Committee back then, you'll see Richard Nixon. You know who you'll also see there? He's one of the secretaries of the House Un-American Activity in the witch hunts.
Ronald Reagan.
No, Ronald Reagan wasn't. Ronald Reagan was acting back then.
Yeah.
It was Robert Kennedy.
Huh, that's right.
Robert Kennedy was right in there, and everybody holds Robert Kennedy in such
wow.
But nevertheless, and later, to be honest, he recanted his entire movement. But what it shows, what the House Un-American and Tail Gunner Joe McCarthy shows, is that people will go along with anything as long as it's based on fear. And the fear that was expressed in the McCarthy hearings was the same sort of fear that Orwell wrote about in 1984. It's manipulation and fear. Who is our enemy this week?